Married to a Shrink is an association with Love Lines LLC. Love Lines is a boutique relationship development company dedicated to guiding you towards meaningful connections. Love Lines offers expert dating coaching, personalized matchmaking by therapists trained in couples dynamics, and enriching online self-paced relationship courses. Our services are designed to empower you on your journey to building fulfilling romantic relationships that serve and honor you. To learn more, visit lovelinesatx.com. And now, let's get down and dirty with all things relationships. Hey y'all, welcome to the season finale of season 1 to Married to a Shrink. Today we are going to be talking about jealousy and the components of emotions that are associated with jealousy. My partner in crime and my co-host is my husband and partner, Michael Calderon, who looks very handsome even without his hat because I forgot it at home and did not bring it to the recording studio. But I will let you introduce yourself before we move on to the topic at hand.
Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for joining us for episode 10. Hope you all have enjoyed our journey and look forward to this discussion about jealousy.
Yeah, and then we'll close out season 1 and kick off season 2 shortly after that. So with that being said, jealousy, huge component in the couples therapy dynamics and in the couples therapy world. Comes up a lot with infidelity, but that kind of feels like that makes sense, right? But it also finds its way into components that people don't always recognize or realize. So I want to kick off with kind of your thoughts around association with jealousy within our relationship. When are times that you get jealous in our relationship or within our marriage?
Sure. So I think first, before we jump into how I think it's part of our relationship, I think we need to kind of set a baseline in terms of, well, what is jealousy and why is it a component in relationships, in some relationships from time to time? Obviously, if anybody has seen the movie Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman going back to the 90s, it's one of the 7 deadly sins.
It is?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
I
jealousy
can't remember.
Isn't jealousy and like envy almost like
envy. Yeah. Yes. You're right. Wrath and all of that. Yeah.
Right.
The term jealousy, 100%. Envy is the
biblical
envy, sloth. Yeah.
Right.
Continue.
So I think in terms of emotions, I think jealousy stems from some sort of insecurity in yourself or a lack of trust in your partner. I think is generally where it stems from. I really have a hard time determining when I feel or have felt jealousy in our relationship. I trust you immensely. I definitely, you mentioned at the top of the conversation that jealousy often comes through at times with couples that have experienced infidelity. I can say, from my prior relationship, I did have a lot of feelings of jealousy, and I think it stemmed from that. And then it just starts to make yourself feel insecure in your own skin and in your relationship. But with our relationship, I really have a hard time thinking of an instance where I've been jealous.
Well, I can think of numerous, but that's because I think we need to broaden the scope. I think what you're doing right now in your narrative is not uncommon, where you associate jealousy strictly with people, with attraction or interjection of other people, right? Because jealousy has multiple kind of definitions. One definition is a threat to the relationship or a perceived threat. It doesn't have to be an automatic threat, but a perceived threat to the relationship can create feelings of jealousy, right? And I think that's really what you're referring to when it comes to infidelity or, sexual attraction or engagement with people that we're attracted to or opposite sex or same sex, depending on our sexuality. And all of that is kind of what I feel like you're referring to. But there's another component of jealousy that I think people just don't naturally go to. But it's really that it's to really like covet something. It's that envy component. And I would say that that component does play in our relationship, but not in the orthodox way that people think. I feel like you get jealous of my time.
Fair. Yeah, fair. No, when you started kind of going through this other definition, that is kind of what came to mind.
Oh, that came to mind for you, and I started to kind of take it in a different direction.
Yeah, it's jealous of how your time is being split across others in our home. And it's like, hey, wait, what about me? What about me?
Yes.
So yeah, that's definitely, I guess that is how jealousy does still exist in our partnership.
But it's interesting, you know me and diction, my love. I feel like you automatically took it to a place like it should not exist within our relationship. Does that make sense? Like the way you phrased that was yep, that still exists. As if like, oh, that's a mark on us. We shouldn't have jealousy in our relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's natural. I don't think you can void your relationship of jealousy completely. I think there's always going to be components of it or seasons where it plays a role. I mean, I think, this isn't how I was, but just when I accepted this new job about 4 months ago, you would use the term and said that you were kind of jealous or envious of me that I've been working from home the past, 5 years. You work from home full time. My new role is a hybrid role. So I know you were kind of like, ooh, I kind of wish I could get dressed up and go to an office.
People get to see your clothes.
Interact with me face to face. You're not just putting on a blouse to be in front of a webcam.
Boxer shorts. Yeah. And 100%. I was envious. There was like part of me that I was like, oh man, that sounds real nice. To have lunch with someone other than our dog, right? To maybe have some conversation that isn't just based around, someone else, right? Because as a therapist, there's no conversation. It's not a two-way conversation, right? And so I think there was envy in that. But to kind of circle back, I think it's very common for when people think of jealousy within a relationship to think of attraction to other people as the source of said jealousy. And I am challenging that notion and kind of expanding it for folks and expanding it because I know in our relationship, you do get jealous of my time. I think that sometimes you can covet it or it can seem like the lack of time spent with you is a threat or a perceived threat to our relationship.
Yeah, I don't know about threat, but yeah, I definitely covet your time. And there's times, yes, I feel like at times that I'm left with the crumbs and that the kids or whatnot or have taken the bulk of the pie.
I mean, those kids in general are little like vacuums that just like suck.
They suck it up.
They suck it up. No, I acknowledge that. But I think that is a continuous dynamic in which we operate with the jealousy. And for you, I know that I don't really have, minus the example you just gave, and that was related to more of a social component because I feel like in our relationship, I don't know if I really struggle with jealousy or envy in the way you do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I suffer from it a lot, but I would agree that if you do, you don't express it as.
Oh, but would I express it if I felt it?
You would certainly express it.
So there's my challenge. Well, because I really fall into a real appreciation and understanding for compersion which is a huge dynamic in the.
You're gonna have to educate
I
me what
will,
that
yeah,
word means.
I will. So compersion is a huge dynamic in the ethical or consensual non-monogamous community, right? And for a lot of individuals who operate with that lifestyle, that's what they're always trying to get to. Is by definition, compersion is finding joy, true joy and appreciation in your partner's joy and appreciation. And so honoring that. So in the ethical non-monogamous community, it's they have another partner for sex maybe, or for dating, or certain activities that are really unique for that individual, and they get a lot of joy and satisfaction from that, from engagement in those activities, and then they bring that joy home to the original partnership, right? And so the original partner gets to receive the balance and the joy and the positive emotions that are exuded from their interaction with another individual. Does this make sense? And that we are not in an ethical non-monogamous relationship. We're in a monogamous relationship. But I think my point is that dynamic of compersion, I really hone in on and I really feel strongly about. And I think that's one of the reasons why when something brings you a lot of joy and it takes your time away from me, takes your time away from our family, right? But you're able to come back after having that experience, and I'm able to revel in that joy with you. That's why I don't think I really struggle with the jealousy towards anything. Does that kind of make sense?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I challenge that notion a little bit, but
I think for you the challenge is that there's not the things that you really do away from the home are for your joy and your pleasure. The things that I have to do away from our relationship are not always joyous for me.
Totally agree.
And that's why the dynamic it's not a flip, like you can't flip it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
And so I don't think that, I'm able to really have more of a compersion dynamic where I don't know if you really are.
So if I were to say, Allie, go out and do something so you can come home and I can share in that joy with you, what would it be that you would do?
I would, if it's nice weather, I would read uninterrupted outside. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or I'd go for a really long hike without a time frame and listen to a book on tape. Mm-hmm. Love me some books on tape. I just love literature, nonfiction, fiction, all of it. But I think, that's I am diluting the concept of compersion and some dynamics. It really does stem from the ethical non-monogamous community. But I'm just kind of taking that notion and kind of broadening it. It's not 100% applicable in this type of dynamic, but it is something I just kind of wanted to bring up. Because I know that, again, because one of my specialties is consensual non-monogamy, it is something that comes up in session around jealousy in that community often, right? Where a partner is like, I want them to really enjoy this experience. I want them to have this outlet. I want them to have this connection and this friendship and this love maybe from another individual, but I'm struggling with how that threatens our relationship, right? Or how, and I know this notion is challenging for you. I know we have talked about this often.
No, it's interesting. Yes, I personally couldn't imagine.
No, I know.
I would certainly really struggle with it.
Talk to me about why that would be hard.
I don't think I couldn't share you in that way. I couldn't imagine. I try to. I don't know. I want you to fit all of the needs, fill all of my needs, and I want to fill all your needs, and just the thought of going elsewhere, and I know that that's not, therapeutically speaking, you shouldn't have to have your partner fulfill all of your needs. You can have friends that, meet some of those needs and so on and so forth. But I would really struggle. I don't know if I could reach the point of compersion knowing that my partner was going elsewhere for a big component of our relationship.
No, yeah, and I don't think you are.
I'm not
an
a
outlier.
candidate.
Yeah, but I also just don't think that. I think societally we have become a society that really expects for marriage to be all encompassing, to meet every component of who we are. And for people with complex emotional landscapes, that can be a real challenge for one person to be expected to meet all that. Right?
I think that's partly why a lot of relationships crumble, is they feel overwhelmed by trying to meet all of these things, or the one party who wants that partner to meet the needs, they start to get resentful when their partner's not able to meet them where they want.
Yeah, because, there's a couple things that happen there. Sometimes it's just a skill set. They want to be able to meet, but they don't have the skill sets for. I think that's been a dynamic with us, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other is lack of motivation, which I don't feel like has been a dynamic for us. You are motivated, but you have historically lacked the skill sets.
I've got a couple of skills that I've got to sharpen my pencil with.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the right phrase. But I think sharpen your tools on.
Okay.
Yeah. But regardless. Where for some, they just don't have the motivation. And that's where couples therapy really stalls. And that's where I see, again, I don't have research on this component of what I'm about to say, but what I've observed is that that's when, if infidelity hasn't started, it starts to kind of play in, because they just don't have the motivation to make any alterations, and they're just like, okay, it's just easier. Mm-hmm. It's just easier to go and have my needs met elsewhere than to obtain the skills needed to maintain this relationship. Because I think, again, that's one of the misconceived, or maybe it is a conceived notion of couples therapy and sex therapy. I'm not sure, because I'm in it. I'm not on the outside. But I think sometimes people think it'll be easy, or our relationship will be fixed. We just have to go to couples therapy. And they don't realize that there's
work involved.
There's a lot of work involved. Like, it's not showing up for 53 minutes once a week. Like, the work takes place in the minutes that are and hours outside of that 53 minutes. And I think people just think that saying that, like, being able to tout that they go to couples therapy is that magic pill, and that they don't have to, operate out of that.
No, I think going to a therapist such as yourself gives them the tools that, hey, these are what you have to work on outside of this room. These, figure out what some of those issues are, why they came to be, and then how you can work together to make it better. But the work absolutely takes place outside of that therapeutic space.
Attention singles in Austin. Are you tired of swiping endlessly with no real results? At Love Lines, we do things differently. Our boutique matchmaking and dating coaching services are led by experienced therapists who bring their expertise and relationship dynamics directly to you. We don't just match you based on profiles. We match you based on compatibility, values, and long-term potential. While we work to bring your perfect match among our Love Lines clients, we also help you navigate the world of online dating. Our experts assist you with setting up dating profiles that truly represent you giving you the best chance to connect with someone special. Whether you're looking for personalized matchmaking or one-on-one dating coaching, Lovelines is here to guide you toward meaningful and lasting connections. Ready to find the relationship you've been looking for? Visit us at lovelinesatx.com and discover how our unique approach can help you build a relationship that truly honors and serves you. Yeah, because when you're doing... So again, it depends on the relationship and the dynamics that they're seeking. My biggest thing about being a couples therapist is that we are creating the relationship that serves you. There is not a one size fits all, and that doesn't make sense to ever operate with that notion, right? And so when you have a couple who is coming in because there's been an infidelity and they are trying to regain trust because they are wanting to stay in the relationship, then we have to talk about jealousy and navigate jealousy from a very different lens than a couple who's coming in for infidelity, but one person wants an out and one person wants to stay in the relationship. Okay, well, we're not really going to broach infidelity then. Not infidelity, my apologies. We're not really going to broach jealousy at that point because we're working on other things to either get them back on the same page or to figure out how we successfully uncouple with respect and dignity and all that kind of stuff. That is very different, navigating jealousy in those components, than it is for ethical non-monogamous couple to come in and be like, hey, I really want to get to a place of compersion, right? Like, we've been operating in this dynamic for a while and I'm still having feelings of jealousy. I want to know what skills and what techniques we can utilize and what patterns are there within myself so that I can alter that, because I really want to get to a place where this is accepting of me, right? And there's just so many components. And so that's what's interesting about jealousy, is that there is one, it's not just always related to people, right? Again, with the ethical non-monogamous community, we think first off, oh, well, I'll be jealous of that person, but it's also time. Time's the one resource we can't make more of. It's our most precious of resources, right? And so it's like, how are we going to spend that time? And so that I don't get jealous, or I feel those feelings of jealousy, which is appropriate and natural, but how do I navigate around them or through them or turn them into something that's productive for me, right? And again, that's where I feel like, to circle back to our dynamic where jealousy really plays in for us, is I feel like sometimes there's a stallment in making it productive towards navigating through the jealousy for you when it comes to time spent. I feel like sometimes there's an agitation instead of a conversation around, this is what I'm feeling, this is why I'm feeling like this, and what are we going to kind of do about this moving forward? I feel like what I'm hit with is just an agitation that can sometimes lead to resentment, especially with my time.
I would agree. I think it touches on a lot of things we've talked through this season. I think communicating and expressing yourself is important. If there is some feelings of jealousy playing in with, say your time, I need to get better about expressing that and offering solutions instead of building resentment. Like, hey, let me call your parents up and see if we can set up a date night so, we can go get some dinner and have some just one-on-one time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But what other skills do you feel like you have had to initiate, or do you feel like are lacking when it comes to navigating that initial emotion of, yeah, but what about me? I want to, like, I don't want to share that. I don't want to.
Can you try to ask that a different way?
Yeah. So, one, whenever you get jealous, what emotion comes up for you besides jealousy?
I don't think it's as much anymore, but I would say insecurity plays a role. I know in the past I have felt insecure along with feelings of jealousy.
Care to elaborate on that? What would you feel insecure about?
Maybe abandonment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally see that.
The loss, losing my partner, I think is where I'm going with that.
Abandonment has been a common theme for you, and just in your relationships.
Yes.
And so I think that's a good call out. That abandonment, I think, does lead to the insecurity and to the jealousy, because I know that I am a very autonomous person. And I know that we had referenced that, when sometimes other people would take my time, and that would cause like jealousy from you. But I also feel like at times there's been jealousy towards me. I don't know if that's 100% true, but there's been an insecurity around any ideology that is like me being able to do something asynchronously on my own and it not be automatically coupled with an activity with you. I feel like it has gotten better, but I feel like there for a while there it was like, oh, I want to go do this. Oh, can I come with you? Oh, me too. Mm-hmm. And then whenever I'd be like, actually, I would like to spend this time with me, or particularly like with when we had both puppy babies, like I had this, I would want to come back and ground myself in my life of origin because we've alluded to this, but I don't know if we've ever come out and clearly said what a whirlwind of a life change meeting you was for me.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was a single woman with her 2 dogs, working and having a private practice and doing all of that. And then within months, I became a parent. I became a partner. One of our children has a chronic illness that I had to learn how to navigate, which required daily intervention and a lot of late nights and a lot of education around that, right? And there were times where I would really want to ground myself in my life of origin. But to be frank, you wouldn't let me.
I'm sorry.
No, it's no, but I think you wouldn't let me because it was triggered this like, oh, but if she goes and does that, what if she doesn't come back? That's how it felt.
No, I think, like you said, I think I recognized or saw that it was such a whirlwind. Like you said, it was a huge change, and it was a wonderful change.
I am not putting judgment on it, and I'm not saying it was not. But then it has brought me so much joy.
To not go into it, but I don't know how many months into it after things have been moving in that direction, that this tidal wave came into our relationship and really wreaked havoc. And I think at that moment in time is where some insecurity came into play, because I wasn't able to be my best self because I was stressed to the hills. And
you were navigating an ex-relationship that decided to come back after
and
being
I
away.
was like, at that point, like worried about you, like peacing out.
Yeah.
Like I don't need all of this drama, because you came into the relationship, drama free.
Yeah.
Essentially. And when we were together initially, there wasn't this baggage that was newfound into our honeymoon phase.
Yeah. Our honeymoon phase was shorter lived than I feel like other people get to experience. Yes. But 100%. And I think that's where that perceived threat really came in, and where you started to like double down on the on the insecurity, and then it started to become, I don't know. And I don't know if it was truly like jealousy or envy that was playing a portion at that point. I don't know.
No, I think jealousy and insecurity, I think the two go very close to each other. Like, I think with feelings of jealousy, at least for me personally, insecurity is what the emotion that I feel. And that's how it's portrayed.
I agree, and only because of my therapeutic experience, because that's what I found, again, to reference back to my ethical non-monogamous couples. I find that when they really are able to navigate this lifestyle successfully and really obtain compersion, if that's what they're wanting to go for, to your point, when I'm thinking about the people I've worked with, they're not insecure people. They're very secure in who they are, what they have to offer a relationship, what they have to offer their community in the world, and they're very sound.
Mm-hmm. You'd have to be. You'd have to be successful in that type of relationship.
Yeah. And I think that's where to circle back to something we were discussing earlier, why I don't feel like I get jealous, because I feel like I'm very sound in who I am and settled in my dynamic, and my insecurities aren't personally about me. Like, let me rephrase, because that doesn't quite make sense. My anxieties are not stemmed from like my sense of self or my dynamics or anything like that. My anxieties are outsourced coming in and inflicted upon me. Would you agree with that?
Generally speaking, yes. I think sometimes you can be hard on yourself with how you feel emotions, and that you feel emotions that most other folks don't. I think that's an area that you get hard on yourself on. But other than that,
but I don't disagree. But as a highly sensitive person and an empath, I know that can't be changed, because I know that's my makeup. Mm-hmm. And so I think there are times where I'm like, oh man, I wish I was not like this. I think that's a fair statement. But at the same time, I recognize that that's who I am, and I'm very secure in that. Like, I don't try to do anything to change that, because sure. I know, one, it's a value and it's a gift. It's what makes me a good partner and a good parent and a really good therapist and a good friend and daughter and all these things. But there are times when that dynamic is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And very heavy and oppressive. Are the words I would use towards like that. Yeah, it's a weight sometimes. But to circle back to the topic, I think that's why I don't really feel the emotions associated with jealousy, because I feel very grounded in myself, and I don't feel like I operate with insecurities in the same way that you do.
I would agree with that.
And so what else do you think is associated with jealousy besides insecurity? At times, right? Like, and they're not mutually exclusive. They don't have to. You don't have to be jealous and be insecure.
I mean, this is almost, I feel like this is using the definition in itself, but being envious of somebody or someone else for something that they have that you don't, that you wish you did. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think how that plays out in relationships are a couple things. One, keep it up with the Joneses. Mm-hmm. I think I see this a lot, is that couples compare themselves to other couples. And they'll be like, oh, I wish we operated like that. Oh, I wish we had that dynamic. Right? And so it's interesting that you bring that up because I think that's accurate. Jealousy doesn't have to just be within the confines of a relationship. A couple can take jealousy and apply it to other couples.
Sure.
Right? Looking to build healthier, more fulfilling relationships? Wherever you are, Lovelines has you covered. Our online self-paced courses designed by licensed couples therapists are available to anyone, no matter your location. These courses delve into the essentials of creating and maintaining healthy relationships. Whether you're single, dating, or in a committed relationship, our expertly crafted content will equip you with the tools and insights you need to foster connections that truly serve you. With this commitment in mind, we pledge to donate 5% of every course sold to support individuals who have faced the trauma of unhealthy relationships. A portion of every purchase will go to the Safe Alliance, empowering survivors on their journey to healing and rebuilding their lives. Ready to start your journey towards better relationships? Visit lovelinesatx.com to explore our courses and to take the first step toward building the love you deserve on your own schedule. Cheers, y'all.
I mean, I know in our relationship sometimes, I mean, we are very blessed. We, with our life, with our families. But there are certainly times when we'll be like, we have friends or other family members who just things seem to be very easy and just the stars are always aligned.
Yes.
And it couldn't be from an outside person's lens looking in be much more picture perfect than what it is.
We have talked about this. I'm so glad you're bringing this up because you're right. I think where jealousy, besides the time thing, plays into our relationship is because sometimes we get jealous of other people's lives in some capacity. We recognize that we have the most incredible life, and we know that, and we recognize that. But to your point, there's sometimes where we look at other people and be like, why do they get all the gold, like all the gold stars? Like, how come it's just so easy for them?
Yeah, and I think maybe it's just, again, we have not taken the easiest path in a lot of components of our life. Taking on fostering, that is not going into that journey. You go into it knowing it's not going to be a yellow brick road that leads you to the Emerald Palace. And it's going to take you through the evil forest, and you're going to have some flying monkeys.
I mean, it's true, but it's just funny.
You came into this partnership, and while I didn't have at that time a lot of drama, and I didn't consider it baggage.
You were a divorced man raising 2 children on your own, is
right.
how, when I met you.
Right.
Yeah. But continue.
But you coming in, me having 2 children, yes, as a single father, isn't as easy as you meeting somebody on a website that has no prior relationship children.
Yeah.
So that was, I know we've talked a bit up before. Why do you always seem to take the more difficult path?
Yeah. Yes. I do. I do tend to take the challenging paths. And and we've talked about this, and I won't go into detail on this on the podcast because it's something I'm trying to figure out in my therapy. It's like, I've been in tears with you. I'm like, am I a masochist? Like, do I purposefully choose hard? Again, if I'm purposely doing that, why am I doing that? Right? Because to stem back, we have looked at, we can't help the fact that it's a second marriage. Like, there's baggage, right? We can't help the fact, like, there's so many things, like fostering is a choice, right? Mm-hmm. However, all the dynamics that we have come to learn from this process have not been choices. And so, parenting for you was a choice, but parenting for me was how do we phrase that? Like,
you wanted to become a parent in some way.
Yes.
But it was a secondary component that if you wanted to partner with me, it came along with it.
It came with an automatic parent. Yeah. And so Yeah.
Buy one, get three.
Buy one, get three. Yeah. And so, and with that, I think there have been times when you and I have been like, we've been jealous of other people's
ease. Perceived
yes,
ease.
Perceived ease. But I swear, for some people, it just aligns.
Again, through an outside lens looking in. It may be
100%.
very, very different behind closed doors. And again, I'm extremely happy, and some of the difficulties we've gone through, I think it makes us a little bit more appreciative.
We know how to bounce. And I think that's a skill that a lot of couples don't obtain, is they don't know how to bounce, because life is going to hit you. That's a guaranteed. But for us, we had to develop the skill sets of adversity really soon in our relationship. And
a lot of adversities that a lot of couples don't make it through, and we got hit with a number.
Oh yeah.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Yeah. And so 100%. But I think that's where I feel like that's really where the jealousy plays out in our relationship for me, is that sometimes I'll be like, or we'll talk about it, or we'll run into people and we're just like, and I don't know if this is oversharing or crass, but I'm like, how are they affording this? Like we'll get jealous of people's like money flow. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah.
Because we travel. We travel to Europe. We go skiing everywhere. Like we live a very privileged lifestyle. And there's still times where we'll see friends or be amongst our community, and we'll run into people that we know, and we're just like, how? And I think there is a component of envy there. Would you agree to that?
I would. I certainly would. I think that's exactly what I'm talking about.
But I feel like a lot of times it comes down to money. I feel like where we're just like,
yeah.
I mean,
it does. I know we've had a number of conversations. Like, I just don't know how this works. I'm a financial guy, and
yeah, you do numbers all the day, and you start to crunch numbers. You're just like, how?
I don't see how this fits. Like, I'm missing a component here.
And I think sometimes we have been like envious and been like, oh man, that would be real cool.
Yeah.
And like, and to kind of wrap up kind of this conversation, I'll just, I have, and I feel like this shows up for us. I have a dear, dear friend who got a job opportunity. They're dear friends of ours. Like you have become very close with husband, but who got a job opportunity in Colorado. And we were just like, oh man, what?
That'd be great.
That would be so great. And we had talked about like, we are so excited for them. And like, we were pumped. But then we had a conversation. We're like, well, that would be really cool.
I wish that could be us.
That could be us. But then continue.
No, I mean, your family is around the corner.
But then we had conversation, and it's like, okay, but what is important to us? And it was like, for us, it was important, for one, the education, and we're in a really great school that we don't want to change. And then two, my parents live down the street, and we love having that kind of access for our family for that. And then we've actually started to make friends after several years of trying. And so we were like, no, that doesn't make sense for us. And because we were like, because if we wanted to, we could, is what we had kind of decided. But it was that initial reaction of like, oh, we are so excited, like good for them. Golly, and should that be us? Is that fair?
No, I think it's fair. And I think it's, we're both driven individuals. I think, we both like a sense of adventure. And I think at times because we are anchored down with other things that hold greater value to us, we're sometimes not able to explore those adventures, at least not at this moment in time.
Thanks for listening to Married to a Shrink, y'all. We're going to take a quick break. In the meantime, if you want to like or subscribe Married to a Shrink for more content and relationship advice, we would love for you to do so. We are so glad you are here, and we are so glad to see you investing in your relationships. Thanks, y'all. 100%. And I would also say that, like, being a therapist, especially a couples therapist, because there feels like there's crisis a lot in couples dynamics. I think there is an individual, but the acuity is a little bit different. That I feel like I can't always just go off an adventure because I have responsibilities to people. And I feel like that's kind of one of those burdens that's associated with this profession, right? And I think there's also a little bit of jealousy in that sometimes, where I'm like, this is a choice I've made, and being a couples therapist is an incredible honor. But I think there's sometimes I'm like, oh, but wouldn't it be great if I was in IT and I could just leave for a month? Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, you have got a responsibility to your patients.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's always the crux. And so, I started out the conversation where I don't get jealous, and then we ended up being like, but I do. I just think I think people, and I think I did this just now in this conversation, we silo it to being jealous about people. And then we broaden it. We individually get jealous about time and other things. But I think what we've kind of come to in this conversation is we can be tied and not experience jealousy between the two of us, but that doesn't mean our relationship doesn't experience envy, for other people's dynamics or their money flow or the lives that they're creating for themselves. And I think there's space for both of it. And I think that's always my challenge for couples, is when you're moving through jealousy, to understand that there's space to feel like, oh, this is a little uncomfortable for me, while at the same time being like, yeah, but I'm excited for them. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a notion that people have a hard time. The yes and, I think, is hard for folks. Does that make sense? Or thoughts there?
It does. No, I would agree. I think, like the example you said with our friends, we were able to be very happy for them, but then at the same time have some of these feelings of, I think, some of which is natural, some of envy.
Yeah. Because they're hiking and it's not 98 degrees. Mm-hmm. But I'm born and raised Texas, so I should be used to it by now. So as we kind of wrap up this episode and this season 1 as well, which is kind of exciting and kind of crazy, what kind of thoughts do you want to add in to things that you have found helpful in navigating jealousy as someone who experiences it? How have you how would you tell people to navigate?
I think you have to first off figure out what's making you jealous, whether it's just doing some soul searching or speak to a therapist and figure out why you're getting jealous, what those feelings are, like how is it being expressed. For me, like I mentioned, I had a certain lack of self-confidence, a feeling of being abandoned. And, I was able to get confident in my own skin and, feel good about what it is that I bring to the table in terms of a relationship. But that was my own journey to get there. And, I think expressing your feelings with your partner, once you figured out what it is and what's driving it, it's having that conversation and being open and honest. So communication.
Yeah, communication. Well, and I think that's where, and it's my job as your partner to be able to receive what you need in order to support you. Like that was something that you had to figure out why you had fears of abandonment. But then it is my job for us to negotiate, to be like, okay, well, I can do this to kind of support, but this I can't do, right? And so I can make sure that I'm supporting you within the boundaries that also don't threaten my sense of self. Because especially with stuff like abandonment, it can be very natural for the ask and then the action to be, okay, well, we'll just want to spend time apart. Okay, well, I'll just accommodate this. And then, but then what happens is one, resentment, two, you start to lose sense of self and you're unable to fill your cup. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where folks really have to think about that. What's the long-term strategy, right? Like the Band-Aid would be to just, okay, well, he has fears of abandonment. We just won't ever separate. We just won't ever spend time apart unless we're at work, right? But that has rippling effects, right?
Yeah, not the solution.
Not the solution. But I can understand why couples innately go to that, right? And so it's figuring out, okay, what can I do to support this fear of abandonment or insecurities or anything like that while still being healthy and still staying within the bounds of what I need to do so I can make sure my cup is full. Because what can be a slippery slope is people who operate with insecurity and then they require the other person to be the one to secure them. That creates toxicity. And that a lot of times can also move into like domestic violence and things like that, or just really unhealthy relationships that are codependent. And sometimes when a codependency occurs, especially if someone has an underlying personality disorder that they're not aware of, it can create unsafe and really toxic environments for a relationship. And so that's why it's really important to, like you said, and I'm so glad that you have that notion that you've got to figure out why and then negotiate with your partner on how they can support you while still staying within the bounds of what's healthy for them, right? Because you don't want to it's very easy for people with insecurities or abandonment issues to become codependent because the partner just allows for them to be, right? And also jealousy, it has a place, right? Especially if the relationship feels threatened or when we're coveting something, but that never excuses it moving to a place of aggression, right? And I think sometimes couples can take it there, and that's a challenge. That's a challenge to navigate because once that trust is broken in that capacity, it's real hard to kind of circle it back. So that are some of the components around jealousy and envy. Did this go in the direction you thought it would?
I mean, I didn't know what to expect because, again, this is unscripted. So, yeah, I just knew jealousy.
Yeah. More complex than people think, right? Well, thank you for having this conversation. I really, really appreciate it. I know that we are going to take a short break between season 1 and season 2 of Married to a Shrink. And so this is our 10th and final season final episode. Yeah, thank you. Of season 1. And we hope y'all will catch us next season after we do a little bit of regrouping. But thank you, my love, for having these conversations with me, putting yourself out there, being vulnerable. I don't know a lot of people who would do it. So thanks for being my partner. Thanks for doing this. And I appreciate you. Love you.
Love you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Married to a Shrink. We hope it brought you inspiration and valuable insights to enhance your journey towards meaningful connections. Remember, Love Lines is here to support you every step of the way. Whether you're an Austin single seeking expert dating coaching and personalized matchmaking, or a global listener looking to elevate your relationship through our self-paced courses, Love Lines LLC is committed to helping you build relationships that truly honor and serve you. To learn more and explore our services, visit us at lovelinesatx.com. Until next time, take care and continue nurturing the love you deserve. Bye, y'all.